This is the Business of Apps podcast, bringing you actionable insights from the leaders of the global app industry and the world's fastest growing apps. You can find more app news, data and analysis over at businessofapps.com.
Welcome to the Business of Apps podcast. On this show, we invite app industry professionals to cover various topics. We promise to do our best to keep it both insightful but brief. In this episode, we have Ben Jeger, VP EMEA at Moloco. Ben, welcome to the Business of Apps podcast.
Hi, Eran. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Terrific, Ben. Thank you for coming. Okay, first things first. First-party data. Spoiler alert, we aren't going to be talking about the data you can collect from your first party in college or your political affiliation. No. Today, the topic on the table is how the mobile advertising industry is switching to using data about mobile app users collected internally. How the industry is moving away from relying on mobile user data providers. And to tell us about it, we have Ben from Moloco. But first, Dan, to start off this conversation, please tell us about your background. Tell us about yourself.
My career background is that I've been for the past 10 years in the mobile app marketing space. It started in 2011 at a company that was called SponsorPay at the time. It eventually renamed as Fiber and is now part of Digital Turbine, DT. And then later on, I moved to AppsFlyer, where I set up the Berlin office. That's where you saw me on stage a couple of times speaking. And now for the past 6 months, I've been fortunate enough to be allowed to join Moloco, which is, maybe this is the time also to introduce who Moloco
Yeah,
is.
absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. So Moloco is a machine learning company founded by some machine learning engineers from Google 10 years ago, or roughly 10 years ago. And it took them a while to figure out what to do in the machine learning space. And they settled on an area where there's a lot of data availability and created, as it happens, the fastest growing mobile app performance DSPs in the world, which is currently our flagship product. And we have other products that are using machine learning technology and infrastructure to drive business growth.
The app industry is vast. To navigate this space, you need a directory to look up suppliers and partners, and you need to know who are the best. Visit our marketplace directory at businessofapps.com/marketplace/podcast. And now, back to the show. There's one question that I've been dying to ask for a while, because I've heard the company name a few years ago, and to this day, I have no idea. Why Moloco? Because
yeah, it's a great question. It means milk in Russian. Is that what you...
Yeah, exactly. This is what I'm going to lead this question to, because hence you're not in the dairy business as far as I know. So why Moloco?
Yeah, I like it. Moloco was MLC. It was a machine learning company beforehand, and then they added the O's to make it pronounceable. That's the story that I heard. The fact that it's also milk in Russian, I'm not sure. If we can read something into that. Maybe we can, at the end, can think about how this could be a nice analogy.
That's interesting to transition to expand the acronym that way. To my knowledge, it's the first time I hear that somebody's brand name was developed this way. That's cute. Yeah. So, what's the definition of first-party data? The topic of our conversation today. Why this notion is so popular and being mentioned, discussed so much?
Yeah. So the reason why it's being discussed is that we've entered a period of focus on privacy, user privacy, and this period has started with regulations such as GDPR, but also platform rules and regulations and enforcements, particularly Apple with the ATT framework. And what this means is that data has become I think more regulated, and the control over data has been pushed to the end user. And now what that also means is that practices that have been going on in the past, where data was freely available and shared from one party to the other, this has all of a sudden has been threatened, or to some extent has come to a halt, and that's why we're talking about this, and that's why it's so important to be aware how data is being managed, and how to make use of data, and essentially as a business, I do tend to have user data, first-party user data that I need to have in order to provide my service, and therefore I'm able to use this type of data, and that's the first-party data. However, I'm not allowed to share this anymore without user consent, which most likely I'm not getting. And this is why we're talking about first-party data a lot these days.
So do you think we're reaching the point where advertising using third-party data see the same ad campaign efficiency they had when they relied on third-party data, or there's still a long way to go?
I think that in the app marketing space, the reliance on third-party data isn't really the key factor. I think when it comes to the use of first-party data from an advertiser perspective, I do believe that it's the efficiency that we're creating is derived from our ability to apply machine learning to that data. And I think when it comes to the monetization side, the sales side, I think there's a need for publishers to make more use of their first-party data. So on the advertising side, I feel like first-party data was always being used via MMPs passed back to the traffic sources for them to then optimize and make use of that. However, on the publisher monetization side, the use of first-party data is not efficiently used yet. And I think that will be an area where we will see improvements further down the line. I'm thinking about contextual data that will be added to bid requests and the likes. So I do think that we have some room still to grow.
Got it. Now, I'm going to use this word that I think every listener on the show have heard so many times lately, which is ChatGPT. Obviously, a lot of articles, interviews, discussions on Twitter are happening right now to assess its potential for generating content on the side of creating marketing copy for an app, analyzing reviews for an application. A lot of potential can be seen there, and many companies are jumping on the bandwagon right now, providing new tools, developing solutions, and like trying to be first in this race. What about the mobile advertising side, ChatGPT analytical capabilities on that frontier. And I'm sure you guys in Moloco, having a big expertise in AI, should know one or two things about it.
Yeah. Yes, I think what is interesting is the underlying technology and the revolution of using advanced AI and different models. So ChatGPT is based on the transformer model, and this is a type of model which is very powerful for large language models that enables very strong predictions when it comes to sequencing. So, in other words, what is the next word? If somebody has written one word and then the other, what should be the next word? And so you need to think about what are applications or what are use cases for sequences and where these transformer models could be applied elsewhere. And we are thinking about it when it comes to user behavior in for example retail apps or in gaming apps. So a user has done X and Y, and then this model will be very good at predicting what the next step will be. And so once you think about that, then all of a sudden you can better predict with less data. You will be able to predict the future, and if you look at large data sets, you will be able to predict things like return on ad spend much better, given these type of technologies and these type of models. So yes, we're very familiar, and this is how we are using the machine learning and this type of revolutionary technology. But I think your question was also asking more about generative AI and how it's being used in advertising, creative production, for example. So you mentioned text-based, which is yes, ChatGPT. I heard a very interesting use case of localizing language, even an ad copy from British English to North American English, for example, and the nuances that ChatGPT, for example, can enable you to write. Let's say you were London based, and then you want to write something, and you want to make the ad copy more effective for your US audience. Using ChatGPT is one application or one use case that I've heard, which I found very interesting, just to see how that has an impact on conversion rates just by adding more nuance to language. But obviously, creative production, creative ideation in terms of visuals, I think Midjourney is very powerful and is used by a lot of the teams, UI teams out there at the moment.
Yeah. On top of what you said about the general the algorithm of how ChatGPT allows you to predict what's going to come next, even you have a limited volume of information about the user, leads me to the idea that in the world where we are living with the way high standards from user privacy, we can still push the envelope up for the efficiency of advertising, kind of making everybody happy, respecting user privacy, not collecting more information that it's okay with the user, and yet be able to generate better results, better outcomes, generate more revenue from the advertising campaigns using ChatGPT, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the idea is, as data becomes potentially more scarce, how can you do more with less? And I think machine learning has the ability to answer some of that challenge. Obviously, I'm saying more with less on an individual basis, but obviously it requires a lot of data in general.
Yeah.
But per user, it could be less data.
And I would assume as time goes by and more data accumulated specifically from the advertising side, fingers crossed that the efficiency will continue to go higher because it's naturally, the progression, the more data will be available for the model to be more efficient.
Yes, yes. I'm less concerned about driving results for advertisers and more about advertisers' ability to actually measure that and whether this is how to accurately actually measure effectiveness of different activities.
It's way more important for advertisers to be able to analyze the efficiency, what channels are good for spending more, what channels are wasting my money, what is the ROI, all those KPIs that are so dear to heart every marketer. Is ChatGPT helpful, or AI tech in general helpful for me to be able to measure those KPIs better and be prepared for the platform changes, and have a leg up on my competition, basically.
Yeah, but I think what we are seeing on the iOS side, at least, is that Apple is trying to own more of that, and by that I mean the measurement aspect, and unfortunately the capabilities of Scan are quite limited still. So even in the latest version 4.0, Scan 4.0, we're seeing great improvements, but we're nowhere near to where we actually need to be and do what you just described of actually understanding our marketing efforts across the board in a way that is, I think, satisfying.
Absolutely, still way to go. Now, lately, I've started asking this question pretty much every guest on my show, because when you're on the mobile advertising app industry for a number of years, I believe there's always something you can say answering this question, which is this. Ben, what would you like to change about mobile advertising ecosystem the most?
Creating a level playing field environment where value add and the providers that are delivering real value can actually succeed purely based on their ability to deliver value. And what I mean by that is we're currently operating in an environment which is not super transparent, and with Scan, things are getting even more murky, and it gets difficult to understand what's happening. And then there's bad actors and fraud is on the rise and so on. And I think so. What I would love an environment where there's no fraud and the ability for marketers to truly understand which channels are driving the best results for them. But that's I think we're working towards a world like that, but we're still quite far off it.
Yeah, that's a great wish for improvement for the whole ecosystem, but unfortunately we're just bumping up towards human nature as far as people are part of the equation, which they will be for any foreseeable future, there's always this problem with bad actors. Like every technology, starting with fire, always had two applications, good and bad ones. So even that sophisticated technology, ChatGPT, I cannot see to be a silver bullet to fix that problem. But it remains to be seen as the model will be more sophisticated over time. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Okay, that was the first part of this episode, and there's a second one where I always try to paint a picture of my guest for the audience so people can know people who are on this show a little bit better. Here we go. Question number one. What smartphone do you use now? Are you switching between these two giants, iOS and Android, or being a fan of one of these all the time?
This is a tricky one because I was a diehard Google Pixel user forever. And then I had a friend who was making fun of me for that fact for the past, I don't know how many years, 10 years probably. And then we were in an event together where there was a raffle, and one of the main prizes was an iPhone. And he said, I'll give you my raffle ticket, and if I win, you're gonna get the iPhone, but you must use it. And I was like, yeah, sure, thinking that it would
why
never
not?
happen. Obviously, he won, and I'm using an iPhone now. And I must tell you, it's a great piece of technology. I can't complain too much. There's definitely things that I miss about Android, and I don't miss an opportunity to tell him. But it is a lot of fun, and I'm grateful, obviously, for this opportunity to learn about iOS.
Yeah, that's an interesting switch. To my knowledge, like on this show, having more than 140 episodes, it's the first time I can hear somebody actually getting on the other side of this fence in this circumstance. So, that's funny.
Involuntarily.
Yeah, by force. Now, let's jump back into the past. Before smartphone era, can you remember what was your first mobile phone?
It was a Nokia, I think it's 8820 or something. Like, does that exist? It was this little, it was definitely, it was tiny, and battery lasted forever, and it was no color, just, but it had Snake, as all good Nokia phones, and it was,
Big,
yeah,
better, snake, or
loved it.
small? What else? What else do you need? Okay, back to present. Imagine you left your iPhone at home for whatever reason. You're out. What is the most missing feature for you at that point?
Wow, I'm so addicted to that thing. Unfortunately, trying to be much more mindful. So I'd hope to
We all try.
be able. I'd hope to be able to not miss it. But yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Let's take a look at a crystal ball. If you think about the iPhone right now, and you go like, wouldn't be great if this thing was capable of specific feature, probably not something new, but doing it better, either hardware, software, or both. What would be that feature for you?
I'd like to be able to ask it to book my flights and my hotels, and yeah, just get that right, like know my exact preference, and because I'm traveling a lot these days, and I feel like yeah, that would be awesome.
It's got to be really perfect assistant, way smarter Siri than it's right now. Let's see what's going to happen once Siri is married with ChatGPT, which remains to be seen. We'll see this summer what Apple will say about the iOS. That's the intriga. Very, very final question before I let you go. How can people get in touch with you and get more information about what you do?
I guess LinkedIn would be a great place to get in touch. Just my name, Ben Jeger, and I'm there.
All right. Terrific. Ben, thank you so much for coming and spending time with us. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Art. It was a pleasure.
And that was Ben Jeger, VP EMEA at Moloco. To listen to more episodes, subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts. Just search for Business of Apps and you will find us easily. Remember, we release episodes on Mondays, so subscribe and you will be able to get new episodes on your smartphone, tablet, or computer as soon as we release them. And please don't forget to leave us a review or comment on iTunes. It is highly appreciated. And all episodes will also be available on businessofapps.com. Thank you for listening. See you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Business of Apps podcast. For more, head on over to businessofapps.com.